Now, the next thing in your notes is one of the velocity problems, and I just wanted to go through that really quickly with you. You have an assignment later on in your packet for you to work on a velocity problem, and here's an example that you can refer to when you're doing that. Now, this is one of the problems that the object is being propelled from the ground with an initial upward velocity of 128 feet per second. And the question is, will the object reach the height of 256 feet? And then if it does go up that high, how long will it take the object to reach that height? So to do this problem, you're using the vertical motion model and that we have. Remember that negative 16t squared plus v times t plus s plus h. And your v is 128, they're just giving you that. And your h is 256 because that's our height that we want to know that it's going to reach. So we're setting up this problem and we have negative 16t squared plus 128t plus 0 equals 256. Well, why am I making that s 0? Because remember, that's our initial height. We're starting on the ground and we want to see, will it ever reach that 256 feet? Now remember that we were doing problems that we wanted to see how long it took it to hit the ground, so that wasn't our initial height. Our initial height was however high up we were on that mountain and then dropping that boulder or whatever, and we wanted to see how it hit the ground, and the ground was our 0 number. So remember, when we're solving these quadratics, we have to have it set equal to 0, so all I'm going to do first is subtract 256 over, so that now I have negative 16t squared plus 128t minus 256 equals 0. And so now I'm going to try to simplify this. So all I'm going to do is to factor out a common factor of each of these numbers, which is 16. 16 is shared here, here, and here. So I'm just factoring that out. So I'm going to have negative 16. Well, what would be left in my first term here? Well, 1 times t squared. What's left in my second term? Negative 8 times t. And what's left in my third term? Positive 16. So all I did was factor out a common factor of all these numbers so that I have a smaller value to deal with each of my terms. So now all I'm going to do is factor this. Now if you look at our last page of our notes, we already had this factored. Remember, t squared minus 8t plus 16 was one of those special trinomial factors. So we factored that to t minus 4, that quantity squared. So now that negative 16 just comes along for the ride. That just keeps continuing down. But now I need to set this equal to 0 so that I can solve. Remember, we said if it's factorable, we can solve it, and if we can solve it, we can find x-intercepts. So that's all I'm going to do now. Well, so now I'm going to have t minus 4 equals 0. But where did that 16 go? Well, remember, this is just a factor too. So this is like saying negative 16 equals 0, and these two factors equal 0. So does negative 16 ever equal 0? No. So then we can just cancel that out. So then we just have these factors, t minus 4 equals 0, and then solve. So t equals 4. So what does that tell me? Well, it's going to tell me that it takes 4 seconds for it to get to the height of 256 feet. So that's all those velocity problems are going to tell you, and that's how we're going to set up each and every one of them. So remember that this is our general formula for our velocity problems.